welcome all the devotees, and I'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can share something on the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita today. So we looked at roughly half the chapter last week, and wonderful discussions took place. Does anybody recall the two themes that we discussed in last week? Does anybody recall one of those themes? Would anybody like to share of the third chapter? Don't jump all at once.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
I think one of them was around the reactions of our actions,
Mm.
and around how when we don't keep Krishna, when we don't offer our actions to Krishna, then they have a reaction in this material life. But
Yeah.
when we offer them to Krishna, then there is no reaction, no good, no bad. It's just it's a humble offering.
Brilliant. Very, very good. Very, very good. Absolutely. Superb. Now, let me just see if I can share this screen. Yeah, okay. We don't want the audio. Okay. And continue. Right. Very good. So, absolutely, there's four themes. And the first theme was, by acting for the pleasure of the Supreme without selfish motives, one can be liberated from the law of karma. Otherwise, as you very correctly said, if we're acting selfishly, then the law of karma will kick in, action and reaction. But if we act selflessly, we can attain transcendental knowledge of the self. And then the second aspect was where Krishna started to explain about karma kanda and then moved on to karma yoga. Anybody want to define karma yoga for me? Doesn't have to be exact. What
is it work for fruitive results?
Arvind, okay. That's karma kanda. That's where we are doing something as a sacrifice to the demigods in return for something. That's karma kanda. What do you think might be karma yoga?
Can I try, Prabhuji?
Of course. Hare Krishna Purnamadaji, so
Hare
glad
Krishna, Prabhuji.
you're with us and we can see you.
Yeah. So karma yoga, what I would understand is doing our duties, our worldly duties. It can vary from time to time. So, for example, when we are little or when we are students, at that time it would be listening to our elders and doing our studies, or as we are told. And of course, then as we graduate, have a full-time job or whatever, you start working. So that time, again, your duties are, probably you will work, you will look after your family, and so that also is that is karma yoga, in simple or layman terms, if we can say.
Yeah, good. Karma yoga is effectively where we're doing our actions, as you said, our duties, but the yoga part.
You offer it to Krishna, that's it. You offer all your fruits of your action to Krishna.
Yes, yes, well done, Arvind, fantastic. Either that's the higher level, but the first level, yes, Mr. Saha.
Yeah, is it we will work for Krishna, or we will work for whatever, expecting not any fruit, without fruit.
Very good, very good, very good. No expectation or no attachment.
No attachment.
Yeah. Yes, Aruna, well done. Brilliant, brilliant. So there's two types of karma yoga. Sakama karma yoga, where you do the actions, but you still somewhat attached to the fruits. You also understand that actually there should be no attachment. But then there's Nishkam karma yoga, where actually you work, you do your karma, like Purnamataji said, but you're not, as Arvind said, you offer it to the Supreme Lord. The fruits go to the Supreme Lord. Very, very good. Okay, so that's the two parts. So let's go into the second session now with the verses. Let me share the screen. So we did up to chapter text 16, and today Puna Mataji is back. And oh yes, who'd like to do the English? Maybe Shavi want to do something? Oh, she's busy today with the little ones. Okay.
She can do 5. And then
She can do 5. And if there's any other youngsters, they're welcome to chant. They're welcome to say the English. Otherwise, maybe
Yeah,
some.
I'm there.
Oh yeah, Rohit. Yes. Very young. Yeah, good. So, Puna Mataji.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ तृतीयोऽध्यायः यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यादात्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टस्तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते.
But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satisfied, for him there is no duty.
नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो नाकृतेनेह कश्चन न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः.
A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he need to depend on any other living being.
तस्मादसक्तः सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचर असक्तो याचरन् कर्म परमाप्नोति पुरुषः.
Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment one attains the Supreme.
कर्मणेव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसङ्ग्रहमि लोकसङ्ग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि.
Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work.
So this is very interesting, where Krishna is saying, look, without being attached to the fruits, one should act as a matter of duty. And he gives an example. Janakaraj, the father of Sita, Krishna says to Arjuna, he attained perfection just by doing his prescribed duties. So you should fight. You should do your work. Otherwise, how will you become an example to the rest of the world? Yes, Mataji.
यद्यदाचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत्तदेवेतरो जनः स यत् प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते.
Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues.
Very nice, Shavi. So nice to hear your voice. And this is an amazing verse. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow.
न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किञ्चन नानवाप्तमवाप्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि.
O son of Pratha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties.
So Krishna is saying, let alone the great devotees, even I engage in prescribed duties. That's why I'm advising you now. Of course, his prescribed duties are unique. At one point, he was a Vaishya, like a businessman, a farmer, farming community. And then he was a Kshatriya, a king, so his duties changed. And then he is now a Brahmin. He's advising Arjun as a Brahmin, if you like, because that's what Brahmins do. And he was also a Shudra, would you believe? Krishna himself, chariot driver. That's the position of a Shudra. So Krishna takes all of these 4 ashrams and he takes them very seriously. When he comes as Krishna, he's part of every single one of those. And he performs his prescribed duties. As a chariot driver, he did his duty. As an advisor, Brahman, he did his duty. As a king, he did his duty. As a cowherd boy, he did his duty. This is a really great example. So yes, thank you, Shaivi. Rohit, you can read 5 and then we'll pick on some of the adults.
यदि यय्यं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्मण्यतन्द्रितः मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः.
But if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, then all men would follow my path.
We couldn't hear you properly.
Yeah.
Huh? Just say it a little slower and louder.
For I ever fail to engage in performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path.
Good, good.
उत्सीदेयुरिमे लोका न कुर्यां कर्म चेदहम् शङ्करस्य च कर्ता स्यामुपहन्यामि महाप्रजः.
If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put into ruination. I would be cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings.
सक्ताः कर्मण्य विद्वांसो यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद् विद्वांस तथा आसक्त चिकीर्षु लोकसंग्रहम्.
Yes, Rohit?
Oh, sorry, I have already read this verse. It was paused. Sorry, I'll read again.
This one, huh?
As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to the results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of Lord, people on the right path.
न बुद्धिभेदं जनयेद अज्ञानां कर्मसङ्गिनां जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन्.
So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant man attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness.
So this is an important point. Sometimes this Krishna consciousness philosophy, one can use it and say to people, don't do good work, because good work will bind you to this world. Well, if somebody is doing good work, then we have no right to stop them doing the good work. We can advise them, look, convert your good work into Krishna conscious work. But we can't say, don't do good work because it'll bind you to this world. No, good work is necessary. But it's important and it's important not to stop good work from taking place, but rather we can try to explain that, yes, this is really fantastic what you're doing. You're building homes for, the elderly. You are feeding the needy. Yes, fantastic. But if we feed them, instead of food, feed them prasad. When you feed them prasad, then you are not just doing good work, you are doing spiritual work. So this is quite important, what Krishna is saying. Don't disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to fruitive results of prescribed duties. Don't stop them from doing their work. Let them carry on. But actually, by working in the spirit of devotion, you should engage them in all sorts of work for Krishna consciousness. So very nice. Krishna is really giving a wonderful instructions. Oh yeah, yes. This one's.
प्रकृतेः क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ताहमीति मन्यते.
Last one, Rohit.
Yes. The spiritual bewildered by the influence of false ego thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature.
So this verse really needs a shift in consciousness. If ever there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where it is difficult to understand, this is it. Spirit soul is not the doer of activities. So we are thinking we are doing things. I'm lifting my hand. I don't know if you can even see that. Lifting my hand. We're not doing it. This is what Krishna is saying. We're thinking we're doing it because of false ego, our false ego. But actually the soul can't do. The soul can only desire. When we're lifting this hand, actually there's a meeting of the demigods that takes place. This fellow has a desire to move his hand. Demigods get together, they have a quick session, very fast meeting. Yes, we'll allow him to move his hands. But actually, that is what's happening. We are thinking because of false ego, I am the doer. So this is really a big mind, it needs a big shift in the mindset to understand this. And many devotees, even after years and years, I included, they have not did not accept this, did not understand this. But actually, we have to try to understand that whatever we think we are doing, we might not be doing those things. The soul simply can desire. The rest is done by the super soul who gives the sanction, the devatas who enact the actual movements of the material nature. So we'll see this again and again through the Gita. This is an interesting point to take. If anybody's got questions, what we've decided to do, what we have been doing, is we take them between 8:15 and 8:30, if that's okay. And usually I find I forget within a second what I was going to ask. So if you want to just note it down or even put it on the chat, that would be the best. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Ashish, you want to read the next 5 translations?
And after that can be Kaushalya.
Prabhuji, I got one question.
Later.
Yeah, 8:15. Don't forget the question, okay?
Write it down.
Okay. Okay, I hope I remember.
So, Puna Mataji.
तत्त्ववित्तो महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयोः गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्त इति मत्वा न सज्जते.
Ashish, would you like to read if you're there? Or Pauna Ben, would you like to read? Or Kam, would you like to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes.
Great.
One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses
and the sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work of the fruitive results.
प्रकृतेर्गुणसम्मूढः सज्जन्ते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृतस्नविदो मन्दान् कृतस्नविन्न विचालयेत्.
Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performance lack of knowledge.
मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निराशिर्निर्ममो भूत्वा युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः.
Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims of proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight.
Clear. Krishna is pretty clear. Surrender your works unto me. Have you got full knowledge of me? Don't desire any profit or any ownership. Fight.
ये मे मतमिदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवः श्रद्धावन्तो न सूयन्तो मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः.
Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully, without envy, become free from bondage of fruitive actions.
ये त्वेतदभ्यसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान् चेतसः.
But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, be fooled, be ruined in their endeavors for perfection.
सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति.
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he is acquired from from the three modes. What can repression accomplish?
Brilliant. Because Krishna is explaining, hey, you're going to follow your nature. You're a fighter. Whatever you go to if you go to the forest to meditate, you're going to end up fighting with somebody. Somebody's going to refuse you something and you're going to pick up your gandiva. And I'll be laughing at you when you do that. So don't try to repress your nature. Act according to your nature, but act for me. And that's the perfect way to do devotion. Whatever you are good at, you can do that on behalf of the Supreme Lord. This is the Lord's flexibility on us. Yes, Mataji.
इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषो व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्नवशमागच्छेत्तौ यस्य परिपन्थिनौ.
These are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization.
So now this is the last verse for this theme.
श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो निगुणः परधर्मस्व अनुष्ठितात् स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः paradharmo bhayavaha.
It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duty perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
Interesting verse, Krishna saying, do according to your own nature, your own duties. Don't try to do somebody else's duty, even if you can do those duties perfectly. It's better to be destroyed. It's better to work in your own capacity, according to your own nature, than do somebody else's duty. Because to do another's duty is dangerous. So let's have a look at the theme. Very, very interesting chapter, the theme anyway, as they all are. So 17 to 35, Karma Yoga is outlined as the practical process by which one overcomes his material attachments through working as a matter of duty in this world. This is Krishna's explaining in these verses. And what about, so then he also explains, what about one who has achieved perfection through Karma Yoga? Do they need to continue working? So he explains this point very, very nicely. Can they retire and simply meditate on God now that they are free of all selfish motivation? Krishna explains how perfected spiritualists continue working in the world for the sole purpose of setting the proper example for others to follow and be inspired by. So who was that person that Krishna referred to, who perfected his life through performing prescribed duties? Anybody remember?
King Janak?
Yes, Janakaraj. That's right, Janakaraj. I was very impressed. One time we were doing a youth sangha and we were going through chapter 3. Oh no, was it chapter 3? Maybe chapter. But Sayan, who is Arvind's son, he picked this point up because we were talking about Karma Yoga, and he said, "Hey, what about Janakaraj? He perfected his life through Karma Yoga." So that was really good, very interesting to that he picked that up very nicely. So, what is the lesson to take from these verses? There's quite a few. There's a lot of very interesting verses, but we're only going to take one particular point. Living the philosophy, practicing bhakti yoga, will free us from the entanglements of this world and set an example for all, especially important for preachers. In practical terms, that means we chant Hare Krishna on beads, we read scriptures such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're jumping from Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. You will see this often, Prabhupada will do this. He'll talk about Bhakti Yoga even when the subject matter is Gyan Yoga or Karma Yoga. Why? Because Bhakti Yoga is very, very important. It includes Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga. In fact, Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga cannot be perfected unless there is an element of Bhakti Yoga within those practices. But Bhakti Yoga does not need Karma Yoga or Gyan Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is independent in itself. So we always focus on Bhakti Yoga, and because Bhakti Yoga will free us from the entanglements of this world. And it will also set an example. If we practice Bhakti Yoga, we also can set an example for those who look up to us, who listen to us. If we put that into, especially important for preachers, that we not just chant Hare Krishna on beats, but we actually chant it with feeling, chant it in a proper way. If we ourselves are chanting properly, then there's a chance that others will take note and start chanting properly. Reading scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavad, if we are telling people to read the scriptures, but we're not reading the scriptures ourselves, then the impact of that preaching will be negligible. But if we ourselves are reading the scriptures and the Bhagavatam, we are firstly purifying ourselves and becoming enlightened. But secondly, we're also setting an example for others. And that's very, very important. So I would urge devotees on this call, if I know many will be chanting and many will be reading, but also there are new devotees, and it's sometimes a little hard to get into the chanting. It's a little bit like poison in the beginning, but it's nectar in the end. Krishna says this himself in the 18th chapter, that doing bhakti can become poison in the beginning, but it's nectar in the end. So chanting may seem a little bit difficult. Now, what we try to do is chant together. And maybe one of the sessions, we will spare some time and do one round together of chanting Hare Krishna. And in that, when we do it together, it adds some potency to the chanting, and it makes that chanting even more relishable. I must say that if I have got out of bed and not chanted my full rounds, I don't feel my day is complete. My day is a complete failure. So I feel very fortunate the Lord is allowing us to chant. And if we don't chant, we feel there is something very, very badly wrong in our lives. So this is really only sort of manifested in the last few years, because we got a little bit more serious in the last few years. But this chanting is very, very important. It's the fastest process in this age of Kali Yuga to become God conscious. And we would recommend everybody to put that into practice. And reading, this is the sword of knowledge which destroys our connection with this world. So this chanting is reading is very important, because it'll help us understand who we are, why we are in this world, who is God, and what's our relationship with him. Those four things are very important to understand. So that's the takeaway from this theme. Okay. Next lot. Let's do the next lot. And the next, oh yeah, no, you can just do it from here. So we can read now, who'd like to read? Is there any volunteers who like to read the English?
Yes, I'm there.
Is that Rohit again? No, Rohit, you already done it. You greedy so-and-so.
Can I read, Guruji? Can I read? Hello?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
And anybody else who hasn't read today?
Aruna, she
Aruna,
wanted to.
yes, good. Thank you. So Mataji, you can do 5, and then Aruna can do 5, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Funa Mataji, all yours.
Arjunovacha अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादीव नियोजितः.
Translation. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force?
Shri Bhagavan काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुण समुद्भवः महाशनो महापाप्मा विद्ययेन महिवैरिणम्.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with a material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर्यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम्.
Translation. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust.
आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेणानलेन च.
Translation. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness become covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire.
Indriyani manobuddhir syadhisthanamuchyate eter vimoha yatyesha gnanamavritya dehinam.
Translation: the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Tasmat tvam indriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam gnana vijnana nashanam.
So, Aruna?
Hare Krishna. Therefore, O Arjun, best of Bharatas, in the very beginning curve this great symbol of sin, lust, of regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization.
Indriyani paranyahu rindriyapyebhyah param manaha manasastu parabuddhir yo buddhehe paratastu saha.
The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligences.
Evam buddhehe param buddhva sansastabhyat manamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam.
Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjun, one should steady and mind by deliberate spiritual intelligences, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy,
Insatiable
enemy known as lust.
Very good. So this is the end of the chapter. So Puna, would you like to, Punamaji, would you like to end the chapter?
Yeah.
Okay. So chapter 3 key.
Sorry. Yeah. Speaking on mute. Sorry.
Okay.
Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitayam Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yoga Namak sorry, we are in third chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Karma Yoga. Yeah, it's Karma Yoga. Iti Adhyaya Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Very good. Thank you so much. And you make such a big difference. You see everybody's jumping to chant the English, but nobody's jumping to chant the Sanskrit. Very nice. Thank you so much, Punamataji. And so nice to see Shavi. Wow, fantastic. Hare Krishna.
I wanted to read the Sanskrit, but Kanchan said read English, so I had to.
Nice one. Aruna.
I had no choice.
We'll remember that next time.
Okay. You have to listen to your elders, they know best.
Okay, big sister.
Very good. So let's do a quick summary of what Krishna said. This is really incredible questions by Arjun. He's asking for us. He's saying to Krishna, what is it that makes us do sin? What is it that makes us do sin? So in life, even though we know the best course of action, right? We know the best course of action. But what is it that impels us time and time again to act improperly? Right? So Krishna then explains the root cause of this phenomenon is the eternal enemy of the aspiring spiritualist. What is that? Lust. Lust can be many different types of lust. Lust can be the crude lust between man and woman. The lust can be for material possessions. Lust can be for material fame. I want to become famous. So there's a lust for that. This lust can take many, many, many different forms. It's not just the crude form. It can be very subtle forms as well. So what does Krishna say? How to tackle this lust. He explains where the lust sits, and he explains how lust can be nipped in the bud. So you address it very fast before it destroys the senses. So where is the sitting place? Does anybody remember where the sitting place is of lust?
Senses.
Where?
Senses.
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 The mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mind.
Good.
Yeah. Then mind is the chief of the senses. That's right. But the mind, higher than the senses, but the intelligence is higher than the mind. So Krishna is saying this lust sits in the mind, but the intelligence is higher than the mind. And higher than the intelligence is the Atma, the soul. So he's also explained this, how to nip it in the bud. He explained that in the second chapter, text 62. Dhyayato Visaya Pumsa. He says, as soon as one sees, one contemplates the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for it. So the idea is to, even before we get attached to a sense object, is to try to nip it in the bud. So we try to control that desire. So how do we do it? What's the lesson from this? To regulate the senses, destroy the lust at its source. It's described that one must follow the 4 rules and regulations. This is what Prabhupada gave. The 4 rules: no meat eating, no fish, no eggs, no onion, no garlic. And then the second rule, which is no intoxications. And intoxications, of course, this includes alcohol and drugs. Tea, coffee. But it also includes, yeah, thank you very much, tea and coffee. So somebody might think, whoa, tea and coffee, what are you talking about? Tea and coffee contains caffeine. And caffeine can be addictive. I remember my mother, if she didn't have a cup of tea in the morning, she'd have a headache. She was addicted to tea. So the idea is we don't want to be addicted to anything, let alone a little bit of caffeine. So even if one is drinking tea or coffee, it's not sinful to do that. So there's no sin in committed in drinking tea or coffee. It's just that we don't want to be addicted to it. We don't want to be controlled by anything except the Supreme Lord and love for him. So that's the second rule. Third one is no gambling. And the fourth one is no illicit relations with the opposite sex. So those 4 rules, generally speaking, most Hindus will be familiar with that concept, the concept of those rules, and most will be also following those rules. So these rules are regarded to be regulative principles of freedom. Some people think that these rules are actually restricting us, but actually they're regulative principles of freedom. If we want freedom from this world, these rules are quite important to follow. It's very important to follow. Now, if we just put it into context, when the preachers from the Gaudiya Math came to the West, Bon Maharaj, and he met in the 1930s, and he met Lord Jetland. And Lord Jetland asked him, I want to become a Brahmin. Tell me, how do I become a Brahmin? And Bon Maharaj explained to him, okay, no problem. You have to follow these 4 rules and regulations. And he listed them out. And Lord Jetland almost fell off his chair and he said to the devotee, impossible. So it's not easy to necessarily follow these rules, especially if one is brought up in the West, which many of us have been. So, but the idea is we try. we try to follow these rules and regulations. Very important to follow these rules and regulations. And that's enhanced by sharpening the intelligence through chanting and hearing. Chanting the holy names and hearing the scriptures. Very important. This intelligence is higher than the mind. And mind is where the sitting place of the lust is. So if we sharpen our intelligence, then the mind will be stronger to control lust when it attacks. And it does attack. We all know it. Attacks regularly. And somehow or other, we have to convince our intelligence to control this mind. And the second part is to strengthen the mind through logic, to follow the rules. So the logic is, look, what's the point of giving way to a little bit of lust? That lust is what is getting in the way of me and Krishna. Why would I want to let this little lust, which will last only a little time, but it will destroy my attraction for the Supreme Lord? Why will I want to let it get in the way? So this logic, through logic, we can also strengthen the mind to follow the 4 rules and regulations. So I wanted to stop there. We've got a bit of time. If anybody's got any questions, but also realizations, devotees may have experience, because there are devotees who can share their experiences, or you can ask questions.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, Kaushalya has, let's just go to Kaushalya first, because she had a question. Kaushalya?
Yes, Prabhu.
What was your question?
Yeah, I was thinking, the karma yoga, when you do karma yoga, is it the spirit soul doing it? Spirit soul, the super soul is just watching, is it?
Okay, what karma yoga is, we do our duty. So we desire to do our duty, but we're not attached to the fruits of the labor, or we offer that fruit to the Lord. So that offering, that is all done by the spirit soul. That's the spirit soul who is
the offering, yeah.
Who is desiring that. Yes, that's the soul. And the soul is the one who will reap the benefit. Yeah.
And super soul?
Watching.
Super soul is watching. Super soul is
watching.
Super soul is guiding.
If I may, somebody once gave me an example.
Yes, please.
Of this, and they said, think about 2 birds sitting on a branch. One bird has desires and can experience. The other bird sits and watches and is the enabler. He does not taste the fruits, but when you wish to taste, he allows you to taste.
Good example. That's in the scriptures, actually.
Is it? Okay, excellent.
Yeah, very good. Very nice. And the witness bird is just waiting for the other bird just to turn and look at the witness bird and take shelter. So the super soul is just waiting for us to take shelter of him. Is that okay, Kaushalya Maji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So,
so Haribol, Navi, Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm on Kamaxi's phone listening. So when this, can you recognize Madhusudan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the super soul is just there, like the example of 2 birds, the other bird is just is it just watching and just doing nothing, or witnessing, or what?
It's doing several things, right? It's the witness. It's taking into account what we're doing. It's guiding as well, and it's protecting as well as sanctioning. So there's 4 different aspects to the super soul, and there's probably more.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you clarified a bit of that, and it's a bit the way I understood, like if for example, the soul desires to climb a mountain, then obviously the soul cannot create a mountain. Soul cannot find the mountain or doesn't know where the mountain is or anything. But the super soul will make all the kind of arrangement. It'll make the guidance. It'll even find the spiritual masters, or rather the what do you call, guides to take him along to the mountain. Or whatever.
Yeah, correct.
That so the super soul is doing a lot actually, and that's why sometimes we get confused when you say, "I'm not the doer." Or you are not the doer, you're not entitled the fruits of the reaction. So you climb up the mountain, you get the glory of it or whatever, but somehow you have to surrender the result of that, I suppose, to the Supreme Lord somehow. But I'm just giving a very crude example of climbing a mountain. But yeah, and it gives you all the strength and the determination and the guidance to make that journey as well, I think.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
I think that relates very nicely to the example that Navi Prabhu gave earlier around, when we want to move our hand, it's not the soul that moves the hand, it's the three modes of material nature. And, the devatas, and they are acting upon somebody else's instruction, the Supreme Lord's instructions, his desires.
True.
His will.
His will, yeah, very good point. Very good point. Okay. Thank you for sharing. So there was Indulekha and Punamataji. So
Indulekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So if somebody thinks that these principles are kind of restricting them, they should think about like the size of a cigarette is the size of our finger, and how it can drag someone from bed, from house to go and look for a cigarette just because the desire is there. So they should think about this and then compare what is better for them.
That's right. It's like very good point, actually. It's like I'll give you something that's going to probably shock a few of you. Eating chocolate, right? Would I like to let a bit of chocolate get in the way between me and Krishna? No. What's wrong with chocolate, you will ask? Come on. What's wrong with chocolate? Well, a bit of caffeine. It's addictive as well. You get addicted to the taste and it's difficult to give up. But we don't want to be addicted to anything. We just want to be addicted to Krishna. So anything that's addictive, then we need to try to move away from there, because our attraction and our attachment should only be with Krishna. Puna Mataji?
Prabhuji, I had a different understanding for the 35th shloka.
Okay.
The second line, which says Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyah Paradharmo Bhayavah. So, I mean, if we take the literal translation, like Swadharma, if we think of Swadharma like I am born a Hindu, if we talk about Dharma, not Sakam or Nishkam, just Dharma as a Dharma, So, I mean, till now, I have always understood that, I am born a Hindu. If by any chance I am, mesmerized or impressed by any other religion, it says that it is better to die in your own religion rather than, go and practice or follow some other religion.
Okay, good point. I like the point. Okay, Mataji. Last week, you raised a point which all week it was in my mind. I really liked it. And if we have a chance, I'll go into that last week's point. Superb point you made. In this situation, dharma is not defined as religion. Dharma is defined as prescribed duties. And dharma is not restricted to just meaning a religion. Dharma is actually, what is our dharma? For example, the dharma of fire is heat. If there's no heat to fire, then there's no meaning to fire. So our dharma, what is so essential that without it, we're meaningless. What do you think that might be? Without this particular type of attitude, action, behavior, we are nothing. What do you think that might be? Tough question.
No, I think it is very unique to each of us. We all are born.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all are born with our own, we call it as our nature or our strength, or certain humanitarian or human values that we are born with. So that would be our dharma. For example, if I talk about my late father, he could never ever utter a bad word about anybody. Even if he would know that somebody's trying to befool him, right in front of his eyes, we as children could see that, but still he could never ever say a bad word about anybody. So that was his dharma. Of being, that was his own nature, his own composition.
That was his nature, right? But what is everybody's? What is common for everybody? What do you think is that which is the dharma of everybody, which is common to everyone in some way or other? Anybody else?
That in whichever state we are, we do our duty.
Yeah.
Whatever duties are given to us or expected of us.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Anybody else would like to answer that question? What is it that is so intrinsic in us that without it, we are nothing? What do you think that might be? Yeah, say.
Soul.
Our soul?
Yeah, for sure. And what is a soul? What is a soul's dharma?
What is the soul always doing? What are we always doing?
Searching.
Attaining the supreme.
Hang on, what did Aruna say? What did you say?
Carry our duty.
Now, Aruna, what did you say?
Searching.
Searching. Close. You almost had it.
We are all doing our duty.
Hankering.
Hankering, yeah.
Follow the truth.
Yeah. Okay.
Performing our duty.
Searching. No, not searching. Serving.
Serving.
Serving Lord.
We're always serving. We're serving either the country or our community or
parents.
Parents, yes, good. Or
Senses.
our children. Serving the deities, serving our senses. And if we got no sense, well, if we got nobody, we'll be serving pet, right?
Dog.
Pets nowadays, they serve the pets. And if there's nobody at all, we'll be serving our senses, our tongue, controlled by the tongue. So that is our dharma, right? That is our dharma. We are serving, always serving. So when Krishna is saying it is better to discharge one's prescribed duties, whatever body we have, whether it's Kshatriya, Brahman, Vaishya, Shudra, we will be serving. But we should serve according to our dharma, our nature, our qualities. It's not that I was born in a Hindu family, I should die a Hindu, Puna Mataji. Religion can change. In the morning, one can be a Hindu. By afternoon, especially nowadays in the villages, sometimes in the Bharatiya villages, somebody might become a Muslim because they have been restricted as Hindu. They can't drink water from a particular well, so they become a Muslim so that they can drink water from that well. How ridiculous. They're restricted in doing that. A basic right, anyway. And in the evening, they might become a Christian. So the religion can change, but dharma can never change. Our dharma is to serve. And according to our body and the nature we've acquired, we serve the Lord. We don't try to serve do somebody else's duties, which serve according to our own nature and ability. He's saying to Arjun, you want to go to the far forest and give up, renounce everything, but that's not your nature. You can't do it. Even if you become perfect, it's not going to be, you will get destroyed, because following another's path is dangerous.
But Prabhuji, can I ask a question along those lines? So you might have a talent, or you might have studied a particular field, but obviously because you may not be able to get a job or something else,
right,
and you're doing something that isn't really
you.
Yeah. So where would that come into this?
So you've trained for something, you can't get a job, you do something else. You're never going to be happy, because you're training. You won't find happiness. It's for example, when you're serving Krishna, I'll give you an example. A Brahmin serving Krishna. You ask a Brahmin, go and collect money from, we want to buy a temple, collect money. And he'll be thinking, oh my God, do I have to really do this? But you ask him to find a verse in the scripture, he'll be way, day and night, he'll be looking for that verse, right? Similarly, if you ask a Kshatriya to find a verse in the scriptures, he'll say, how the heck do you do this? But you ask him to organize, he'll be happy, organize anything. So one's nature, if one uses one's nature to please the Supreme Lord, it's going to be a natural progression of service, which will please the Lord, and you will also be satisfied at the same time. If we're trained in something and we do something else, the likelihood is that we're not going to be happy. And if we're not happy, if we don't have peace, how are we going to offer our fruits to the Supreme Lord? How are we, if we're happy, it's a natural progression of bhakti. If we're unhappy, well, everybody knows unhappiness, it just gives you, it just makes you so unsatisfied, unfulfilled. So even practicing bhakti in that context becomes very difficult. Does that make sense, Arvind?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
And Puna Mataji, are you happy?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Now, last
Hare
time.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Indulekha Maji.
So it's saying one prescribed duties. That means that you have several duties, not only one.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example of Puna Mataji. She's got about 20,000 duties going on at the same time. Right? She's a mother, got 3 kids, 2 of them are twins. She got a job. She got, of course, household duties, and now she's taken on a whole more duties as well, other duties. We got tons of duties, Maji.
Okay, thank you.
Arjun had a lot of duties to fulfill. He wanted to go to the forest. Anybody else? Yes.
Duties means like one. Krishna says Chaturvarnam. That also comes
Yes.
under duties,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Kshatriya, Vaishya, Brahmana.
Remember, there's 2 types of duties. There's 2 types of dharma. Remember? What are the 2 types of dharma? We did this last week. Week before.
Dharma and Nishkam Dharma.
Yes, Swadharma and
Swakam Dharma and Nishkam Dharma.
No, Swadharma.
Okay.
Swadharma and
Akarma.
No, Swadharma and so Swadharma is our immediate duty according to our body, right?
Material.
And which is connected to the body. What is the other duty? I almost said it.
Sanatan.
Yes, Sanatana. What is that?
Serving Lord only. No?
Yes, eternal duty. Serving the Lord. Serving the Lord. So those 2 duties are, Krishna says, you got to do both. You're living in this world, you've got the Swadharma. There it is. He's said it here. Swadharma. You got to do
Yeah,
your
but prescribed duties are according to Varnashrama system we have to follow, right?
exactly
Everything we
according to the
can't do.
body. According to the body.
Yeah, yeah, according to body. Yes.
But the Sanatana Dharma is according to the soul.
Soul, yes. Yeah, thank you very much.
Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? Any points?
Yes, Prabhu, one question.
Yes, Kaushali.
Prabhu, you know, I worked in Tesco supermarket, you know, to be a cashier. And, you know, all they used to come, you know, you have to sell everything on the cash point, you know it. So I used to feel very guilty when coming home.
Because
Is that a bad karam yoga?
How many years ago was that, Mataji?
That was quite long time back.
About 30, 40 years ago, no?
Yeah, no, about 20 years ago, maybe.
All gone. Don't worry. Because since then, Guru Maharaj has given you shelter. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Can I say something here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was working in the hospital, in the pediatric ward, I had to serve the little children, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
then one day I asked Guru Maharaj, Gumti asked Guru Maharaj, saying that my mom is very reluctant to go to work because she has to serve the little children.
Right.
Then Guru Maharaj said, no, that is her duty, that is her job. She cannot avoid it.
Right.
That she has to do because that is earning a living, right? So I had Guru Maharaj said she can do it. And then I prayed sincerely, you know, I was almost crying sometimes. And then what happened is the hospital, they hired people from outside to cater and bring and serve. So I was so happy.
That was your
and you know that the nurses, the sisters, they say, somebody will be quite happy now. I say, yes, I'm quite happy.
Okay. The point here for the devotees who are listening and may not be completely understanding what's going on, if we are serving somebody meat, for example, potentially there's 7 people in this chain who get the same karma. The one who eats it is one, but the one who kills the animal, the one who serves the animal, the one who delivers it, the one who sells it, the one who cooks it, all of these individuals are implicated in the same sin of killing an animal. So Kaushalya was asking, she's selling meat in Tesco's, and Indulekha Mataji was saying she's serving the children. It's a really fine line. It's a really difficult one. And Indulekha Mataji, you're lucky you got this exemption from Guru Maharaj. But I would say that if one is working in a situation like that, like you did, pray very hard to get out of it.
Yeah, I was trying to just
keep
the trays that I don't touch. I push inside of the trolley and serve only that I can touch.
Right, because you are essentially Krishna's. I mean, the scriptures explain that you are, as it's even serving you implicated in that sin. So we have to be very, very careful. So anybody who's in that situation,
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, can I say one
yeah,
question? Too. I mean, like what you said, that 7 things, no, like you have no cooking and we should not. And see, like devotees sometimes their parents will cook the meat, but sometimes devotees say, don't eat. They'll not bother because you are born to me. Now you are saying to me, we are eating meat from 20 years, and suddenly now you have quit and you are saying that Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. So what will get karma or how to stop them? Many devotees will facing this in home.
So at home, they're eating.
Parents are eating.
Their parents are eating, and you.
So devotee gets karma?
No.
Okay.
No. You won't.
He is telling, he is stopping him. He's stopping them, but they don't listening. So what to do? Yeah.
But even you're in no position to stop anybody. They're your elders. You respect them. But you can gently ask them, why do you want to cause suffering like this? You can just gently advise. You can't stop anybody. especially your parents. They're your seniors. You have to respect them.
And Mataji saying that she served meat, no, that hospital.
Yeah.
Krishna can understand. Krishna is there with us, Paramatma, so he can
That's right.
he can take that situations. And
Yeah.
I got like this job. One of my friends working in care industry. They are earning, I think, 1,500 pounds. So they said that we have to prepare pork or meat like pigs, and so they told me to apply, but I didn't apply. We have to tablets we can give, it's okay, but why to give meat and wantedly, right? If we get money, no, we should not have more desire. So in this case, we can just quit the job. At Mataji case, it is like a must, but wantedly we should not serve meat, right?
But see how Krishna.
That's my question.
Krishna made the arrangement. So
yeah, but if you sometimes, you know, like my daughter here, Jyotisha, she talked to her whole like lab, her laboratory at university, and all her colleagues and teacher and everybody stopped eating meat.
Wow.
And that was amazing. Yeah, everybody stopped.
That's incredible. So she preached to them.
She didn't preach. She said, "Why do you want to commit suffering to the animals?"
Wow.
So she put it this way. Then everybody stopped. This is amazing.
Wow. She's a strong preacher, huh? It's not easy to preach to.
Because, you know, they often used to go to restaurant. The teacher would take them because the higher classes like the PhDs. And she would never take anything except for some salad and juice. So slowly she started telling them, but she would not tell because of religion. She would tell them because I don't want to cause suffering to animals. So they started taking from that point, but everybody stopped, which is amazing.
Yeah, if you tell them from religious aspect, they almost switch off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why she didn't do.
Good.
So, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have the same problem. I have a shop. So I have a mini soup, and for the since I've come to Krishna consciousness, I don't really want to do it, but obviously I have a family to support, but I have pressure from my parents. I've told them I don't want to do it. They was like, yeah, but it's doing well. Why don't you just do it for another 4 or 5 years? But my heart isn't in it. Every day I wake up and I don't want to do it.
I think like Indulekha Mataji, you know,
you just pray.
There was one man,
Vaishnav.
Vaishnav.
Yeah.
There was one devotee called Vaishnav. He used to cut the meat, you know, to serve it. And then he came to Krishna consciousness. This is about 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And he came to Krishna consciousness. He was then praying sincerely, please, my dear Lord, I don't want to do this anymore. And somehow or other, he had to sell the shop. He got another shop without any meat products. So somehow Krishna really changed his position like very quickly. I think it's just a question of your desire, yes, strong desire and prayer to the Lord, my dear Lord, please get me out of here.
For me, it was very bad because I was doing service also. So I prayed hardly to Krishna, please. So he listened. He says, okay, you want this? Okay, here you go.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Well done, Maji. It's really good. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. So Arvind, I think what can you do? You're in that situation. You know it's not good, but the only thing you can do is pray. To change shops now, very, very tricky.
This is the dilemma. I've thought of just selling, and then I've said Krishna will provide. It doesn't matter, just sell. And then whatever happens, Krishna will make something come along.
Yeah. Thing is, a lot is on the consciousness and the intention. There is a pastime in the Mahabharata about the butcher. I don't know if anybody's read this. It's quite a story, quite a long story, actually. Maybe we can start with it next week. We'll start with that story next week. But there, the butcher actually is considered quite an elevated person because he's simply doing his duty to feed his family without any attachment to the fruits or the job itself. And he's considered to be actually quite an elevated personality. So, you know, everything is not lost. Your consciousness.
It's not all black and white.
It's not all black and white. Your consciousness, your desire, plays quite a role in that. So don't worry too much, Arvind. Just pray intensely. Please help. And that's a huge fortune. I remember I was in a situation where I had to pray intensely, and my goodness, it's when you pray intensely, things get noticed by the Lord. If we just pray, everything's comfortable, Hare Krishna, Hare, no problem. What's for breakfast? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. What's for lunch? No problem, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Dinner, oh yes, it's already ready, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna doesn't take much notice. But if we're praying, my dear Lord, please help. Please let me be close to you. Please don't throw me away from your shelter. Please, please, please. He takes notice. So these desperate situations, like Indulekha Mataji had that desperate situation, actually are in our favor.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. These problems, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, they are the residents of Kali.
Good.
Personified. So we have one bhajan. In fact, it is in Mangal Arti, we sing in Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat, it is as follows. Kali kukuraka dana yadi chaho re Kaliyuga pavana kali bhaya nashana Sri Sachinandana gao re. So this is a formula. This is a solution, Prabhu. If Kali Kukura, if we want to be free from the dog of Kali, Kali Kukura yadi Kali Kukura ka dana yadi chaho he, then Kali Yuga pavana Kali bhaya nashana Sri Sachinandana gao he. We have to chant the name of Gaurahari and Nityananda Prabhu.
Good.
Mercy. They're very merciful. They can protect us from Kali, means meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu will, by chanting the name of Nitai and Gauranga and surrendering to them and begging for their mercy, will be freed from all these Kali. This meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. Also, Purna Mataji question, she mentioned, I'm a Hindu and I would like to die for my Hindu religion, etc. Gauranga Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishna Das, Das Das. Yeah, this is our identity. We're not Hindu, we're not English, we're not American. So the very basic, the root of the false identification needs to be eliminated. We have to come to the point of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's instruction is Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nita Das, Das Das Anudas. And then we move forward by practicing Krishna consciousness on this solid basis. Then our Krishna consciousness will progress by grace of Nityananda Prabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu, our Gurudev and Vaishnavas.
Thank you for sharing. Very good.
So also there is in Prem Dham Deva Stotram, there is one verse as follows. Arya Dharma Pala Labdha Diksha Krishna Kirtanam Laksha Laksha Bhakta Gita Vadya Divya Nartanam Dharma Karma Nasa Dasyu Dusta Duskrito Dharam Prema Dhama Devam Eva Nomi Gaura Sundaram. So he says in the first line, Arya Dharma Pala Labdha. Krishna, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he inaugurated this Sankirtan movement of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra by following Arya Dharma, means he's followed the scriptural rules and regulations very strictly and as exemplified. He showed by example by following the rules and regulations very strictly, and he inaugurated Krishna consciousness, this Harinam Sankirtan movement. Arya Dharma Pala Labdha Diksha Krishna Kirtanam Laksha Laksha Bhakta Gita Vadya Divya Nartanam. Then thousands of devotees were chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Gauranga Mahaprabhu was dancing.
Thank you.
Laksha Bhakta Gita Vajadivya Nartam Dharma Karma Nash Dashu Dusta Duskrito Dharam. Means so, there are certain people who destroy dharma karma, means they break the rules and regulations. An example was given like Jagai and Madhai was leading their life without following any these principles, rules and regulations. But they received the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu and they became Krishna consciousness. So in this way it is explained like that. Hare Krishna, Dandavat, Nitai Gaur Haribol.
Thank you for sharing, Surinder. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we can bring it to a close. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Puna Mataji?
Yeah, sorry if I could add one line.
Yes, of course.
Not one line, sorry, a little incident.
Yeah, of course.
With regards to the, I think question that probably Arvindji said, I come from Somnath, now there is a attached town, it's a twin city called Veraval. Now this Veraval is a portal town, it's got a very huge port. And most of the people working, there is a community, the fishermen community, they are not exactly the fishermen as such, but it's called the Kharwa community. So the basic mode of livelihood, the mode of livelihood is basically by fisheries, so
Yeah.
they fish the dry fish, they export fish. They are very, very rich people. This Kharwa community is very, very rich. And some of them are very learned also, and it has been going on, since ages. They have their own, katta or whatever they call. So some of them, over a period of time, they are enlightened and they realize that they are doing a lot of sinful activity, but
Right.
they don't know any other means of livelihood apart from that.
Yeah.
It's so what how they have adapted, their lives, because it has been coming from generations.
Yeah.
So some of them, those who are really strong enough, they have tried to forgo meat. They have been very successful in doing that. They themselves do not eat meat, though they do the business of, they cut the fish, they salt the fish, they do everything that they first, they even get it from the sea, from the ocean.
Right.
But what one thing that they do is they are very conscious of the sin they are doing. They are
Yeah.
very aware that this is their livelihood, they cannot change. So as you said, they are doing constant bhakti, that and trying to educate the next generations to go
Right.
away from this. So that is, and third thing they are doing is constant bhakti, reformation within oneself. And also they do a lot of dhanam, because they feel the money, they are very rich, they've got big boats and big ships, so they are very rich. So they feel, that if they help somebody, it will help them cut or curb their sins. So when we were narrating, due to sometimes our livelihood, certain things depend on livelihood and we cannot change that. So obviously we have, praying to Krishna is one thing, he will definitely listen and he'll definitely come to your rescue, there is no doubt about it. But these are the things, to change your life for good, and be benevolent, and be a good devotee. They are all ardent devotees.
Yeah. This pastime in the Mahabharata, it goes like this. This Kaushika, he was this brahmachari who was very proud. And he saw this butcher. I'm going to just jump to the end. Kaushika was surprised, but gathered himself and said, "Such a sinful profession does not befit you." He's talking to the butcher. "You must be ashamed of it." The butcher said, "I'm not ashamed, my dear Brahmin. This has been my family occupation for many generations. And thus I am simply performing the duty that has been ordained for me by the Supreme Lord. Because this is my destiny, I know there is nothing for me to lament about. In spite of my lowly profession, I have always served my superiors. I always speak the truth. I only eat what is left over after offering all my food to God, my dependents and guests. I am never envious of others. O Brahman, even if one is engaged in an abominable profession, he can still develop all good qualities. One whose heart is naturally inclined towards truthfulness, charity, non-violence is actually a virtuous person. So it's never a black and white situation. There's always an element of gray, especially when you're talking about Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, but one question here. The person who's fishing, who is doing this business, and he's giving in charity, what happens to those who are taking that kind of charity? Do they incur sins because the money is coming from kind of sinful activities, right?
Yeah, it undoubtedly will. Of course, a lot depends on their consciousness, how they receive. They're very, very poor and they got nothing else, and they're very humble and they have the mood that the Lord, you are my protector, and this is what's coming to me from, because of my destiny. Then they may have the same sort of mood as this butcher. So
yeah,
it just depends, Just depends. I think you can't judge any situation on how it looks on the outside, because inside we don't know what that person's thinking.
Yeah, if we take the example of the brahmana and the cobbler was cleaning the skin of animals to make shoes out of it. He had to deal with the thing, but he was always praying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Spot on. Very good example, and Kamaji. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront. That was a good example.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Good example.
Hare Krishna. Also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Gauranga Mahaprabhu was caught in a fisherman's net. And because that fisherman is singing Namaste Narasimhaya songs at night fishing, he was caught in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's net. He received blessing of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He was granted Krishna Prema. When Swarup Damodara saw the fisherman of the wells, he's chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The fisherman became great devotee. Nitai Gaura Haribol.
Good point. Good point. Nice one. Nice to share all these past.
Welcome, Prabhu. Welcome. Nitai Gaura Haribol.
I should finish that.
Very, very good. Thank you, everybody. Anybody else? No, good. Okay, so hopefully we'll convene next week. Thank you, Puna Mataji. Such a nice recitation of Sanskrit. Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity.
No, we're the fortunate ones here. We've won out of this one. Thank you.
I think the feelings are mutual.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.